Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, November 30th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, our feasts today take us, to begin with, to Italy, on the coast of Genoa, the city of Genoa. In Italy, Father Orsini says that it is the feast of Our Lady of Genesta. According to his redaction, he says that the shrine of Our Lady of Genesta is on the coast of the city of Genoa in Italy, and it started because of a poor woman, Petruccia, who decided to build a church in Mary's honor. Of course, being poor, it seemed like an impossible task. However, she laid the cornerstone and assured everyone that she would not die until the Blessed Virgin and St. Augustine finished this work. Now, in all fairness, we have to say, after doing the research, we can't seem to find a shrine of Our Lady of Genesta anywhere, or even a city by the name of Genesta, be it near Genoa or somewhere else. However, it seems that maybe what Father Orsini is getting at is the story of a woman named Petruccia, which is true, and her work associated with the Church of Our Lady of Ganazzano, right? This Petruccia was a third order Augustinian, and she wanted to restore a church that was under the care of the hermits of St. Augustine, right? Petruccia wasn't a poor woman. On the contrary, she had been left a good deal of money when her husband died in 1436, and she decided to use that money to restore the church because she spent a lot of time there in prayer. She had a great plan made, and work was begun, but she didn't actually have enough money to finish it. So what happened? Well, just like the Bible recounts, people made fun of her. They said that she wasted her money. Even her friends turned their backs on her. But she would just answer, "My children, do not put too much importance on this apparent misfortune. I assure you that before my death, the Blessed Virgin and our Holy Father Augustine will finish the church begun by me." Okay. And Petruccia was rewarded. So on the 25th of April, 1467, in the middle of the afternoon, there was a crowd that had begun to gather in front of this unfinished church of our Mother of Good Counsel, when all of a sudden they started to hear music that seemed to be coming from a cloud that came down upon the church. The cloud stopped against one wall of the church, and the bells began to ring. And then when the little cloud dissipated, it revealed a beautiful image of Our Lady, holding her divine Son in her arms, right? The painting was hovering in the air, and though it didn't move, it wasn't attached to the wall, right? So the image remains to this day, obviously not hovering. I assume they brought it into the church. And then because of that, out of recognition of this great miracle, the visitors gladly gave the money needed to complete the church. So we can also head down to Mexico, into Guadalajara, where today we celebrate the original installation of the image of San Juan de los Lagos at her shrine. The shrine story begins in 1542, when a Spanish priest by the name of Father Miguel de Bologna brought a statue of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception into the village. Now, the town was called at that time San Juan Mezquititlan Batiste, but later the name was changed to San Juan de los Lagos in 1623. According to local legends, that year, 1623, the daughter of some local peasants fell ill, and her parents prayed for her health, and the girl recovered. And so because of that miracle, the statue began to be venerated by an increasing number of pilgrims, be them indigenous peoples, Spanish, or mestizos. And it was during this time that the statue ceased to be known just as an image of the Immaculate Conception, but rather acquired its own identity as San Juan de los Lagos, right? Our Lady of San Juan de los Lagos. And so, for many years, from the early 17th century to the middle of the 19th century, a pilgrimage was held every year on November 30th to celebrate that original installation of the statue in the shrine. For today's reading from True Devotion to Mary by Saint Louis de Montfort, we continue with part 2 on the most excellent devotion to our Blessed Lady, or perfect consecration to Jesus through Mary. And we're in the third section, the wonderful effects which this devotion produces in the soul which is faithful to it. So again, this is a very important section where St. Louis de Montfort talks about all the benefits that accrue to us when we do this consecration and fulfill it, right? It says, if you are faithful to the interior and exterior practices of this devotion. So, we can continue with this long list of benefits that he's telling us. And we'll start with point 217, where he gives us the fifth point. And then we have 218, 219, 220, and 221, which all are about the sixth benefit that accrues to us. So in point 217, St. Louis de Montfort says, "The soul of our Blessed Lady will communicate itself to you to glorify the Lord. Her spirit will enter into the place of yours, to rejoice in God her salvation, provided only that you are faithful to the practices of this devotion. Let the soul of Mary be in each of us to glorify the Lord. Let the spirit of Mary be in each of us to rejoice in God." That's a phrase from St. Ambrose. "Ah, when will the happy time come," said a holy man of our own days, who was all absorbed in Mary. "Ah, when will the happy time come, when the divine Mary will be established mistress and queen of hearts, in order that she may subject them fully to the empire of her great and holy Jesus? When will souls breathe Mary as the body breathes air? When that time comes, wonderful things will happen to those in lowly places, where the Holy Ghost, finding his dear spouse, as it were, reproduced in souls, shall come in with abundance, and fill them to overflowing with his gifts, and particularly with the gifts of wisdom, to work the miracles of grace. My dear brother, when will that happy time, that age of Mary come, when souls, losing themselves in the abyss of her interior, shall become living copies of Mary, to love and glorify Jesus? That time will not come until men shall know and practice this devotion which I am teaching." Point 218, so this is the sixth benefit. If Mary, who is the tree of life, is well cultivated in our soul by fidelity to the practices of this devotion, she will bear her fruit in her own time, and her fruit is none other than Jesus Christ. How many devout souls do I see who seek Jesus Christ, some by one way or by one practice, and others by other ways and other practices? And after they have toiled much throughout the night, they say, "We have toiled all night and have taken nothing." We may say to them, "You have labored much and gained little." Jesus Christ is yet feeble in you. But by that immaculate way of Mary, and that divine practice which I am teaching, we toil during the day. We toil in a holy place. We toil but little. There is no night in Mary, because there is no sin, nor even the slightest shade. Mary is a holy place, and the Holy of Holies, where saints are formed and molded. 219. Take notice, if you please, that I say the saints are molded in Mary. There is a great difference between making a figure in relief by blows of hammer and chisel, and by making a figure by throwing it into a mold. Statuaries and sculptures labor much to make figures in the first manner, but to make them in the second manner they work little, and do their work quickly. St. Augustine calls our Blessed Lady forma Dei, the mold of God. Si formam te appellam, digna existis, the mold fit to cast and mold gods. He who is cast in this mold is presently formed and molded in Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ in him. At a slight expense and in a short time, he will become God, because he has been cast in the same mold which has formed a God. At point 220, it seems to me that I can very aptly compare directors and devout persons, who wish to form Jesus Christ in themselves or others by different practices from this, to sculptors who trust in their own professional skill, ingenuity, or art, and so give an infinite of hammerings and chiselings to a hard stone or a piece of badly polished wood to make an image of Jesus Christ out of it. Sometimes they do not succeed in giving anything like the natural expression of Jesus, either from having no knowledge or experience of the person of Jesus, or from some blow awkwardly given, which has spoiled the work. But for those who embrace the secret of grace which I am revealing to them, I may reasonably compare them to founders and casters, who have discovered the beautiful mold of Mary, where Jesus was naturally and divinely formed, and without trusting to their own skill, but only in the goodness of the mold, they cast themselves and lose themselves in Mary, to become the portraits of Jesus after nature. Let me have point 221. O beautiful and true comparison, but who will comprehend it? I desire that you may, my dear brother. But remember that we only cast in a mold what is melted in liquid. That is to say, you must destroy and melt down yourself, the old Adam, to become the new one in Mary. Right? And so this is, again, these are the benefits that accrue to us as we consecrate ourselves to Jesus through Mary and beautifully practice the devotion.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ, her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.